There he is.
Finally.
There's the man.
Our man, our boy.
All right. It is July 26, 2023. Welcome to the Aladdin DAO community call. We're going to kick it off here first off with some macro update from Charlene. So take it away, Charlene.
All right. There's really nothing much to talk about, so I made up something this week.
Did you also invent some diagrams for us to look at too, and some plots?
Yeah.
All
yeah.
right. That's all that's important.
Diagram makes up good content. The market has been pretty trendless. Right? I call this Schrodinger's cat. I know the physicist on the call doesn't really agree.
I mean, I'm not sure that I would agree or not. I'm confused so far. Go on. Tell me your.
Yeah. It's just no trend. There's nothing really, can move the market at the moment. The market doesn't care about raising rates. The market doesn't care about the dollar as it used to. The economic data is so mixed. Some of them show that we're getting into recessions, and some of them show that the economy is strong and healthy. And we're getting into earnings season, right? The market expects S&P 500 companies to post over 7% decline for Q2 earnings. This is pretty significant cut on the numerators. And the Seven Sisters carry all the hope for this season. You know who the Seven Sisters are, right?
No,
the big tech stocks.
Oh, I thought it was a mountain range in British Columbia. That's the three. That's the Three Sisters.
The Seven Sisters in U.S. stock market.
Okay.
Right, that provide key support. So Google, Microsoft, and Tesla have posted results that beat the market consensus. The others are scheduled to release results in the next couple of weeks. Let me ask you guys a question. When you look at the economic data release report or financial report from a company, how do you know which numbers are real and which are not? Let me rephrase the question a bit. Right? How do you know which number is absolutely real? Anyone know?
I guess you just have to sort of trust that the third-party auditor is doing their job. I don't know.
I mean, are you going to say something like revenues or something like that?
The only number is absolutely real we can trust is the date of that report.
Good one. Oh, I see. It's a joke, K-Mets.
Yes, I got it. I'm totally on board here. I love it.
Oh, Charlene, dropping the joke bomb. I love it.
Okay.
So it's all nonsense. It's all nonsense, or could be.
But then you will ask, if the numbers are so marked up or marked down, why would we even bother looking at them? Right? Why would market respond to them? Right? The ugly truth is that the market takes the data as they know it won't be proven fake immediately. And everyone else is playing the game by the same rule. Right? It's like, you take Bitcoin because everyone else, takes Bitcoin. It's like people like to see magic show, right? Even though they know it's fake. They still enjoy the show, let the magician keeps the secret. So let's talk about dollar a bit more today. I know that we spent quite a bit of time talking about objectives, pros and cons of strong dollar versus weak dollar. There has been a lot of speculation that dollar is deemed to collapse. Right, there's a lot of speculation on crypto Twitter about this. So we all know that dollar is backed up by the U.S. economy. So let's check the numbers fundamentally and see, if US is a company, do we want to hold debt issued by corporate America? This company has $32 trillion outstanding debt, $25 trillion sales, which is just GDP, $4.8 trillion in revenue, and $6.4 trillion expenditure, of which 500 to 600 billion is interest cost. It was actually 476 billion last year and expected to be 663 billion this year due to rising interest rate. And this company is expected to run on an annual deficit of $1.5 trillion this year. Let's look at some charts, some historical trends of this data.
We're
Okay.
ready. We're ready.
GDP, right?
Okay.
GDP for the last 10 years, growing and healthy. Government debt for last 10 years, always growing.
Pretty linear.
And government revenue, volatile but growing.
That volatility is just like
Is that seasonal?
seasonal. It's like because there's your precision is more than annual here, right? It's like quarterly or something.
Is it like tax returns coming in? Something
Yeah,
like that?
that's what I would assume.
Yeah. And debt to GDP, so running up significantly for the last 3 years. So I
mean,
guess the market is not happy about this. But
ran up significantly once and then held, right? Like that was clearly a pandemic effect.
Yeah. So it jumped.
Yeah.
Right. For the last 3 years. So that looks pretty bad. But if you put that in context, right, it's still quite reasonable, right, compared to other countries. United States only ranks number 14, right, on this league table.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So things look pretty reasonable to me. I wouldn't say this company is very healthy, but it definitely is a financial health, right? Is okay, right? It's looks sustainable, of course, right? The market is not happy that this company plans to increase its debt level by over 50% in next 10 years, right? Would you be confident to invest in this company's bonds? I think so, right? If GDP and revenue can grow by the same scale. So overall, I don't think the dollar is going to collapse, but it will run within a range to meet the system's objectives.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it for this week.
Do you think we've seen the range and it's just going to keep kind of the guardrails are going to be what we've seen already?
Well, I think the strong dollar and there's pros and cons for strong dollar and a weak dollar, right? And the strong dollar that just try to increase TVL for the farm, right? Weak dollar means you pay less, on your debt, right? So
right, but in this context, how strong is strong? Like, do you think, and how weak is weak?
Well, if we look at the dollar index chart, right, the historical high was 160, right? Really, the low point, was around 80. Right, currently we are at 100. Right, if the system wants to, they don't default, right? If the system want to pay less on their debt, right, they can send it to 70, 80. Right, if the market follow, right, and to really increase the farm and suck in liquidity globally, right? They can send it to 120. So I see it like a 20%, up and down, right?
Yeah.
That's a range, right? Depends on what's
Sure.
the objective.
So, Charlene, I heard someone say about a few minutes ago that you can't trust any numbers put out in these annual reports. And I'm just curious, can we trust these numbers?
Well, they're not really.
maybe not
100%.
specifically, but maybe broadly, trend wise.
Trend-wise, okay.
Trend-wise, probably, yeah. Because eventually things will, right, come to reality, right? So whatever you make up, right, and that will be examined by reality. So I think the historical trend, right, can tell something, but not
Okay.
100% accurate for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, so if you had a trade planned at a very specific debt to GDP ratio, then you'd be in trouble, K-Mets. But if
Fortunately, I am not that far right curve, so
no, not the is it right curve or is it never mind. Let's let's thank Charlene. Awesome again.
yes, thank you.
It's always good to bring a dose of charts into the discussion.
I do have one more sort of macro question for Charlene, and that is yesterday, or at least I think it's today, that Bank of California will be purchasing PacWest. And so my question is the banking crisis still going on?
Is the banking crisis still going on?
Yeah.
Good question. I think things like we haven't heard anything from the news flow, right?
Mhm.
Because Fed has been running some targeted liquidity program, right, for the banking system, right? So there's a banking settlement system, right? So banks can borrow from each other and borrow from the central bank overnight, right? And I think there is definitely a liquidity tap there to make sure that people getting into crisis can borrow there. I don't think it's 100% risk off because the interest rate is just so high, and definitely we're going to get another raise later today, and they're very possible we're going to have more later this year, and the banks are holding all hold so much interest rate sensitive instruments. I think all their backend system would be very ugly, right? It just depends on who has more power, right? If the system can cover them all, or all the loss is too big, right? No one can
Well, I
cover
mean,
them.
wasn't the net effect of all that basically just consolidation?
What do you mean consolidation?
I mean, a
The
bunch of
system
small
has a
banks getting
limited
absorbed.
capability, right?
Yeah,
If the loss is so huge, right, and no one can cover them. Depends on how huge, right, this whole thing is, right? Because every time when interest rate goes up, right, and things on your book, right, get reduced in value, right, and you get this, this scheduled payment all the time, right, and like all the bank, insurance, and pension funds, right, they all need to make a regular payment, right? But what's on their back end, right, that value is becoming less and less. Are they going to get into this cash flow problem? Whenever they get into this cash flow problem, right, whatever it's a bank run or it's a redemption crisis, right, then we'll hear on the news flow. Right, before it hit the news wire, we don't know how ugly it is, right? Because they are all stratified. They cook their book. You don't get the live information how bad things are, right? It's just like Lehman collapsed in 2008, right? They didn't know they were bankrupt like a few days before that. because things
So-
were not transparent if their management didn't know.
So, K-Mets, let me ask you this. Would you rather have the total lack of transparency of TradFi or crypto Twitter?
Oh man. Like, do you want a punch in the face or a kick in the crotch? I don't know.
All right.
I might be done with investing if those are my choices. I don't know.
I mean, it kind of is. So
yeah. Oh boy. Okay. Well,
that's one good piece of information to learn from Charlene, that maybe a bunch of anonymous bag holders are not the best prognosticators of like global economic stuff.
yeah. That's why, you just have to rely on Etherscan. What's going on there?
Oh, I thought you were going to say you have to rely on Aladdin DAO community calls.
Of course. Yes. I mean, that's just implicit. I don't even have
Yeah.
to say that, do I? Should
No,
I?
no, you don't.
Yeah.
Well, not here.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Charlene. Appreciate the insight there. So we will look forward to seeing what the FOMC has to say and do today. So keep an eye on all that. Okay. Well, I guess we
All right.
will move on to more immediate matters at hand. Like, we'll start off with Clever. So we had Harvest Round 49. That's complete. It
Awesome.
did for us, I guess it did pretty well. So this is the last round where we will be bribing with Clev tokens for Clev CVX. So I think if I understood sort of our the ability to kind of move things around. So we'll be cutting the emissions for Clev for the next revenue, and so for the next round, and so we'll just be switching over to our new revenue distribution model that we kind of like that passed governance last week, and so that'll be for the next round. I believe we'll be just utilizing CVX earnings for that. So
Yeah, so Charlene, maybe you can clarify for us, just to double check for everybody on the call. Right now, the plan is for emissions to continue as usual in the curve pool for everything that people were farming before. But the difference now is that we aren't actually emitting Clev tokens anymore. We are allocating our real revenue and using internal voting power in order to generate those emissions. And so we don't expect a big change in the curve farm yields, but we expect to suddenly be feeding fewer Clev tokens into the market.
Correct. Your understanding is absolutely correct.
Perfect. So that's going to be a great change now. But Charlene, is there also we are also stopping emissions on the Clev ETH farm on Clever. Is that correct?
Clev ETH farm on Clever. What do you mean?
Sorry, maybe I've actually got this wrong, and I should have connected with you beforehand. But the on Clever, where we're paying direct Clev emissions, was that continuing, or was that being stopped and consolidated over onto basically the only place to farm Clev ETH LP will be on Curve, or are we still going to be? Is it still going to be farmable for Clev tokens on Clever?
Yeah, people can still farm Clev token on
Oh,
Clever.
okay. Sorry, my mistake. I think that's something that we had discussed internally, the possibility of moving those emissions to bribes, right? Rather than paying them out directly. But okay, sorry. Apologies
People
for.
can farm Clev token on Clever for ABC CDX.
Yeah. Okay. So, but not Clev ETH LPs then.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm vindicated. So that is actually an important change. That the Clev emissions in the Clev ETH LP are ending, and so if you are farming in the Clev ETH pool on Clever, you're going to want to migrate to over to the concentrator probably, or some other way of farming. If you want to do it on Convex or Curve or whatever, but some curve based farm, because that's where all of the incentives are going.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
Charlene, that is scheduled to stop because right now the website is still reporting the 41 to 100% on Clev and ETH farming. So that is scheduled to stop this week.
We are in the process of acquiring, the bribe resources, CRV and CVX, right? So hopefully we'll get the new plan up and going from next epoch, starts next Thursday. And if not, right, it will happen like the following epoch, right?
Okay.
Because it takes time to to convert our treasury reserve into bribe resources.
Okay. So maybe the best thing to say right now for the community is Clev ETH, the Clev ETH farming pool on Clever is in its final days. And exactly how much longer it's going to continue is still to be determined, but it will stop emitting Clev at some point in the next week or two. And at that point in time, you'll want to move your farms. If you happen to be a Clev ETH LP, there's about $250,000 dollars worth in there right now. So if you are farming that pool, you're going to want to jump on over. And my suggestion would be to jump over and just use the concentrator farm.
Concentrator is very good.
Concentrator is very good. It's paying 64% right now.
Ooh, boy.
And that's but there's actually very little TVL in there at the moment. Now that shouldn't, I'm not sure if that's going to dilute or not, but it depends on how much is locked in the underlying curve pool, but I don't think much. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. Watch those, and we will confirm once that emissions have fully stopped so that people can reposition. But if you want to get a head start on it, you can always jump over whenever you're ready. If you're waiting for low gas or something.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So speaking of concentrator, well, that about wraps it up for Clever, so we can move on to concentrator.
Great segue.
I mean, it's almost like I planned it. Certainly didn't make it up on the fly. So let's so just a reminder. So if you have a CRV on Polygon, if you hold it there, you can still send it to our multi-sig address. That's and we will reimburse you on mainnet. So that's still good for anyone that's holding that on Polygon. And the deadline to transfer to send it to the multi-sig is noon UTC on August 1. So just keep that in mind, and we'll send out a reminder before.
Yeah, and I mean we talked a bit about this last week. I don't think we need to go into too much detail here, but basically because of the whole multi-coin the fiasco with the bridge, we're offering this to people who want to sort of immediately bail out and get redeemed on mainnet. Anybody who misses that deadline is still going to have these bridged tokens in their wallet, which we don't actually really know what is going to happen with them. They may end up, depending on what happens in the future, they may end up being just fine and bridgeable back once if issues get sorted out. But if you're not sure if you want to take the risk, then Aladdin and DAO will take it for you in this particular case.
Yep. All right. And then in other news, the concentrator DAO to DAO revenue sharing proposal that is up on Snapshot now. So we will post the links to those so that people can go and vote on the revenue sharing proposal. The details are still up on the forum. So if you need to get caught up and
do you want to give us a quick reminder of what that was all about?
Yeah, sure. So essentially right now, as it stands, the revenue distribution for concentrator essentially is whenever there's a harvest, 2% goes to the keeper, and then 10% goes to it gets split. It gets split off into 50% of that 10% goes to the treasury, and then the other half goes to VECTR holders. Well, this new proposal, that 10% gets split 3 ways equally, and it goes to the treasury, it goes to VECTR holders, and then we have a third of that which goes to any DAOs that contribute a significant amount of TVL to Concentrator. And go ahead.
Right. I was just going to kind of lace the track for you a little bit here. Just kind of say that the whole idea here is to incentivize larger like DAOs and also potentially people who might want to build on top of us to basically create this incentive where we minimize the fees we take when the volume is really huge, in a kind of a very accessible way.
Right. Yeah. And so that's sort of the overall sort of scope of the proposal. So feel free to read about it and then go and then make sure you vote. It's up on VECTR and XALD. Oh, the links are already posted. So
they're ready to go. Yeah, check it out. Yeah. Check it out. And if you have any issues, I mean, obviously we were looking for feedback on the forum last week, but make sure that you check out all that stuff and vote and vote your conscience here. But this, we need, the whole story here is we want to make sure that Concentrator, like the name of the game won't surprise nobody at all, for all of the products, is growth. And I think that a really big unlock for Concentrator is going to be to start getting some big players and some DAOs on board. Concentrator has got a solid, like a rock solid history of just solid operations, right? Concentrator does what it says it does, and it has ever since it was launched. And so as you see more and more issues cropping up, that basically the longer Concentrator remains sort of standing and impervious, and again we attribute that to our extreme commitment to security, and nothing goes to mainnet that doesn't get audited, and lots of eyes on everything. So but the longer it stands, the more sort of tested, the more battle tested that it is. And in that case, we're hoping now that we're starting to get to the sort of level of confidence that that DAOs and other like significant treasuries will start to look at us as a viable option and not just like a new test.
Yep. Yeah. And so please get the word out so people will vote, and these will pass quorum, and the people's voice will be heard. So
and get the word out in any DAOs that you're a member of, because Concentrator is a great way to manage or to a great excuse me, part of a well-balanced DAO treasury management approach. So
yep. Absolutely. Okay, and then the one other thing that we have for Concentrator that was posted this week is a proposal on MIM, on Abracadabra, on their forums for basically to whitelist a token vaults on there. That kind of goes hand in hand with the revenue sharing proposal we just shared about, and it's basically one that will sort of a proposal to have MIM whitelist our vaults to basically allow for lending against the RA tokens. So this is a pretty big deal, and so we're hoping that we get some really good feedback from MIM, and that they're excited about it as well. So we're looking forward to getting everybody's feedback.
Speaking of things where the community can have a nice impact, this is a huge one, right? Like let's get out and pound the pavement a little bit over on the MIM side, because I don't know about you guys, but like suddenly being able to borrow against my A tokens would be amazing. Like that would be something that I would be extremely excited about, and like enabling that, because this would be the first time, this would be the first place, the first lending protocol. If this goes all the way through to the end, this would be the first lending protocol to accept an A token as collateral, and that is just such an unlock for Concentrator itself and for composability in general, right? Like we're starting to see these huge, we're continuing to see incredible growth on ASD Curve right now. That's a big one. Mm-hmm. But A Curve, the original, the granddaddy of them all, is it's also still, like, again, trucking along in a very, very reliable kind of a way. And now that you've got trust in these things, adding utility, that's a huge unlock, if you ask me.
Well, yeah,
or additional utility.
Yeah, well, I mean, having any sort of collateral that grows, and obviously the value fluctuates based on the underlying token, but the fact that it grows over time, I mean, that's sort of the ideal sort of collateral that you want in a system.
Well,
So
it is, and when you think about it, something like supplying A curve or well, let's talk about A curve for now, because ASD curve is a little bit more complicated because of its lockup period, which is also something we are talking about internally, trying to streamline. But let's talk about A curve right now because it's the simplest. The thing about A curve is that this was what Concentrator was built around. All right, and the whole story of Concentrator is like, hold the assets you want to hold and farm them to get the assets you want to earn. And so if you think about the utility of Concentrator, once A curve becomes a viable collateral, you can now use your big principal. Like, let's say if you're a big stablecoin farmer, right? On Concentrator, you can use your stablecoins to farm A curve, and basically you can, anytime you need to top up your A curve position, you can come to Concentrator, claim that A curve, and then bring it over and top up your collateral with it. So you're farming additional collateral with your principal assets, right? Like, I don't know if I'm doing a great job of explaining this, but one of the reasons I'm so excited about this side of this direction that we're going is really you start to get that flavor of what composability can mean in a really practical way, right? You start to see that, like, oh, okay, so like these Concentrator farms that I have, which are just kind of accruing A curve for me quietly in the background, I started farming them because A curve's a great asset. I want to hold curve, and I like, and A curve maximizes the yield that I can get on that curve. But if I can then borrow against my A curve and then also have this sort of like ready and increasing supply of additional A curve coming from my farms that I can use to top up my position if it's ever necessary, it feels very powerful to me.
yeah, I think you basically can take sort of the narrative for liquid staking tokens and basically take that exact same narrative and apply it to the A tokens. And then you begin to start to see sort of the composability across the spectrum of DeFi. And you
certainly,
can
yeah. Like, certainly in terms of composability, you're absolutely right about that. But the thing about liquid staking derivatives, are kind of the equivalent of a farm and dump compounder, right? In that you are forced to earn more of your underlying. You're earning ETH, but you have to hold ETH to earn ETH, right? In the case of a liquid staking derivative. Just like with a farm and dump compounder, you're farming a bunch of rewards, whatever the source may be, and you're dumping them in order to buy more of the underlying, right? And compounding back into that. And the thing that Concentrator has always brought that farm and dump compounders and even liquid staking derivatives don't do is the ability to farm a different principal, right? To basically have your principal in a different denomination than the reward that you are concentrating into, right? But still be able to get those benefits of compounding, which is that the thing that you harvest itself is productive again. But it doesn't have to be the same asset that you hold, that same principal asset. So like, that's the kind of like, there's that fundamental sort of principle here about Concentrator of you don't actually have to hold the asset that you farm, right? Or at least not not like 100% exposure, right? And you can actually have a diversified portfolio, all farming the same same asset, and then that asset that you're farming now, unlocking this ability to borrow against it is pretty awesome.
Yep. Yeah, I think we've sold Kruger on the idea of Concentrator, and
I'll take two.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, yeah. So it's pretty exciting. It's posted. We posted the link here in the chat. So please go check it out. Get on their forum and kind of like tell them about the benefits. Why you're involved in Aladdin. Why you think it's a positive move. Why
it's a long way from a done deal here. Like we need boots on the ground.
Yeah, so the more voices sort of in support of Aladdin and sort of speaking, truth to power, that'd be great. So I appreciate any help we can get.
We might be setting this up as more adversarial than is necessary.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, go get them, guys.
Sick them.
Yeah. All right. Well, so there's that, and then Aladdin. So for Aladdin, we spoke a little bit last week about sort of these some broad strokes in terms of the sort of tokenomics revisions that we had a proposal placed and it passed, and so some of those initiatives have been I believe they've been incorporated into the protocol already in terms of like the revenue split. But we have a few more things that we elaborated on last week, that there will be a proposal that will be going to the Aladdin Forum here in the near future, next couple weeks or whatever. And
That's right.
you guys can just kind of keep your eyes peeled for that. But that's kind of where all that sits right now. So just sit tight for a couple more weeks. We got another thing going on here.
We do,
wanna get through
and this is, it's very much in the pipeline, and we talked a little bit about this just kind of like on the call last week, and just I can rehash that very briefly here, just so that it's kind of top of everybody's mind and you're ready for when the forum proposal comes out. But basically, our super community member Tao had made a couple of proposals in the past, some of which had actually even gone to Snapshot and been voted on and passed through. And the team is now coming in consultation with Tao further, and also ourselves and other members of the community. Aladdin is brewing up a proposal to actually extend what Tao had already proposed and what had already been passed, and even push it further. And basically the TLDR of the whole thing, which includes the changes that Tao had talked about and the additional like moves that we're talking about making, are essentially to stop XALD rebasing altogether, and to introduce a VE-ALD. So we're no longer going to be XALD. We're no longer going to be rebasing and just paying out like token inflation indefinitely. We're now going to go to a vote locking model on ALD. And then in parallel with that change, we are going to introduce a maximum supply for ALD of 150 million. Now, currently, that number is 1 billion. And so if you go to CoinGecko, you'll see that the fully diluted value of Aladdin is quite high, which is a little bit, misleading, because that assumes that a whole mess of tokens, like the total supply of tokens right now is 140 million. And we're looking at putting a hard cap on that at 150 as part of this proposal. So a bunch of stuff that is going to change the tokenomics of ALD significantly, but in a good way. We hope, like the whole idea here is to make ALD that first-class citizen of the Aladdin ecosystem that it was always meant to be. And now that we have some kind of meaningful ecosystem around it, again, it makes sense to kind of start putting our efforts into that. And so we're also going to look at, as we're looking at pulling the trigger on making this change on Aladdin, we've got a few sort of incentive programs planned in order to make the initial locking of ALD a success, and in order to sort of kick that off, right? Because the revenue portion to ALD is going to be very modest in the beginning. Obviously, everything is all about, ALD, not just the revenue, but also its ownership of the whole ecosystem, and then, obviously its future growth and everything else. So at this point in time, sort of to kick things off, we have some incentives planned for ALD locking, including an allocation of Aladdin's new FX token for FX protocol. This is the big new one that we are going to be launching very soon. We're going to talk about in just a second. And so we're going to give all the details of that, of the launch plan. You are going to see them soon. But the proposal to make those key changes, which is to cut rebasing altogether, and then transition to the vote locked ALD, and also introduce that maximum supply of ALD tokens, that's coming soon. So watch the forums for that, and we will let you know when it's there.
Yeah, so we'll keep you updated, and just keep your eyes peeled. So pretty cool stuff. That's all in keeping with our theme of growth. And speaking of growth, we've got a big growth spurt coming up here.
That's right. A new arm. That's the best kind of growth.
That's
spurt.
right.
We have two arms, and now we've been living next to the Springfield nuclear power plant for too long, and
get that third eye. Yeah. Oh boy. Well, of course, FX. So the the big news there yesterday is that our audit came back and we are good to go. So
Yeah.
that has been posted. It's available for anybody to go and read. That's in our GitHub, and we'll get the link up here for you. There you go. Man, Kruger's on top of it today.
I can copy and paste.
Man, look at that. He's just multi-talented all around. We got to keep this guy around. So yeah, so there's the audit, and so we are basically good to go for launch here in the next week. So I guess we should kind of like talk about sort of next steps here.
Yeah, so I think the first sort of like by the way kind of thing is that the Falcon testnet is still up and running. We still have a feedback form available if anybody wants to if anybody notices anything before we switch over to mainnet. Obviously, you know, when we go to mainnet, we're going to have a lot more eyes on us, and I'm sure that there's going to be some sort of I'm sure there's going to be some rapid feedback that comes in and people's ideas about the interface and things there. But the Falcon testnet has been very, very, very helpful, as well as Sepolia before that, to kind of iron out some kinks so that we this is the first product that we actually public testnet launched, sort of interestingly. So or at least that we announced publicly that there was a testnet and invited the community to join in. So yeah, it's been extremely valuable. It is going to be going until launch, but then after that, we're going to be looking for people to provide feedback on the real deal on mainnet. So it's in the twilight, and then the next step, the audit report is out, as we just mentioned. This week we are going to announce, I think KMETS, you have been kind of spearheading this, going to announce our first round of F of X boosters for the F of X booster program.
Yeah, so we've got a list of folks that have put together threads, articles, content, that have really been going out of their way to get the word out about FX, and so we've got it on there. If you've made some content and have yet to put it on the contribute channel in the Discord, please do so we can make sure that we got you on there. But that'll be the next day or two. We're going to put that out. So
right,
so
I think we're keeping an eye on Twitter as much as possible, but it's easy, or is it even called Twitter anymore? I don't know. In the garbage fire that is social media.
Yes.
So if is it shits now? Sheets?
I don't
X's?
know.
Oh, Elon, you big idiot. All right. So let's just say that we are doing our best to keep an eye out on social. But by the way, if you happen to be sharing F of X stuff on other socials, sorry. Oh, sorry. Oh, I gotcha. There. If you happen to be sharing F of X on other socials, drop a link to that in there too, right? Like if you're on Lens or I mean DBank has DBank stream. I've been kind of playing around with that a little bit, and Linero has too. Our guy Linero has been posting lots over there. So or Mastodon even. I don't know, where are you guys doing stuff these days? So
is there DeFi TikTok? Or is that,
I mean, I assume so, but I'm sure that it's horrifying. So
yeah, well, if you got content, let's see it. I'd be curious to know.
Exactly. So maybe like I think KMETS is getting ready to do one of those TikTok NPC streams, but it's all going to be
yum yum yum.
But it's going to be DeFi related exclusively. Right? It's going to be,
Lord.
harvest, claim your rewards.
That's when you will know we have bottomed at the bear market, when I create a TikTok stream.
Ooh, rewards, good.
Thank you, Kruger. Oh boy.
I'm going to be the only subscriber to your stream, but I'm going to send you emojis all day long. It's going to be awesome.
Look, I'll take whatever I can get at this stage. I'll take whatever I can get.
All right, so that's this week, and that's boosting, and that's that. And then next week is a huge one. You ready to? Once you drop the mic on us, KMETS.
All right. Well, we are going to have the second round of our IDO for FX tokens. So and launch on mainnet. So there you go.
It's the 1-2 punch.
If the mic wasn't attached to my face, I would drop it. So there you go.
If I hear a clunking noise and you're just not speaking anymore, I know you.
That would mean I passed out, which
Passed
from
out.
excitement over.
Yeah,
the
it's a mic
launch.
drop.
Ideals. That's right. Exactly.
Yeah, and this is going to be a big week for FFX. So, I mean, if you didn't get a chance to participate in the first token sale, then this is your second chance. Although I will, as always, remind everybody that like these token sales that we do at Aladdin, they are very targeted. Like we have a specific need for this specific product, right? The idea is not to just like open end sell as many tokens for as much as we can. But you know, in big part of the reason for that is that we're not looking to try to create the same sort of pump dump cycle that that token launches often come with, right? Like we've gone to extreme lengths with all of our previous token sales and the way that we have crafted those in order to try to minimize some of that, like some of the unnecessary volatility. I mean, a token sale is obviously always a token sale. There's really not, you know, we don't control the price of the token ever on secondary, but we do control the price on primary, and so we can craft the token sale in a way that makes sense, that provides the assets that the protocol needs in order to get off the ground to the people who are available. It's always permissionless and open. That doesn't mean that you are guaranteed to get tokens. It doesn't actually, you know, there was a lot of gnashing of teeth last time about whether, you know, it's fair that there's not a limit on the number of tokens that an individual wallet can buy. But I mean, obviously all of that is kind of nonsense, because in a permissionless world, there's no limit on the number of wallets that you can have, and it doesn't cost anything to spin them up, right? So in fact, putting a per wallet limit doesn't actually stop any determined, you know, whale or botter or anything else. It doesn't even really slow them down. So we're not promising that you get tokens, but it is absolutely wide open and fair for anybody to take a crack at it. If you are ready at the time with your ETH, then just like last time, I do expect it's going to be quick. I don't think it'll last too long. But it's another option. It's another way to a chance to get your hands on some FFX tokens. I will also say, as I do every time these things come around, that the booster program is a much better way to get your hands on some FFX tokens.
Absolutely, yeah.
It doesn't involve any gas at all.
Yeah.
And it doesn't involve any competing or being like at your desk at a certain time. Like if you just take your time and make some awesome content and you know, put yourself in front of the community in that way, you are going to get rewarded. And that's a great way to get a hold of FX tokens without needing any assets at all, right? It's that I mean, if you want to talk about fair, how about being able to earn without having to buy them at all? So and then, you know, in addition to that, there will be farming. If you've looked at the FFX tokenomics, you're going to have lots of options to farm FFX tokens. The FFX tokens are going to be used to incentivize liquidity at some point down the road, and so there will be opportunities to get your hands on some FFX tokens for those of you who are looking to get a hold of some and to to hang on to them and have a piece of the ride over the long run.
I'm really rooting for Charlotte in this round. I'm really rooting for her. She's got to get at least one token.
Yeah, I think we should, you know, maybe we should go back and edit the contract to make sure that if Charlene doesn't get one token, that she gets allocated one single FX token that will be automatically deposited in her wallet.
Is that too condescending, or is that a nice gesture?
It's a nice. Well, we'll see. Maybe we're upsetting her.
The verdict is in. Yeah, it sucks. Oh boy. Well.
All right, and then you know, IDO aside, like second token sale aside, that is the main net launch for FFX, right? This is we are going to turn on FFX, and this is pre-liquidity, so there you will have the ability to mint and redeem FETH and XETH tokens directly on the primary website, on the FFX website. And this is prior to the start of liquidity incentivization, which will be coming shortly thereafter. And once liquidity incentives are online, that'll be where we look at putting putting a pool of FETH and XETH on Curve so that it can be traded in and out of easily without needing to mint and redeem on the primary site.
Yeah, and so that's all coming out next week. So man, we've got a lot going on.
It's a big week. It's a big week.
And this week we will also have just kind of as an opportunity to just kind of drum up some noise and support and kind of get the word out. We're going to be having an AMA with Token Bryce this Thursday, and so
Tomorrow.
That is tomorrow. Yes. Oh man, this week is flying. Holy cow. Yeah, tomorrow. And at 4 p.m. UTC. So that'll be on the I believe it's on the Aladdin Twitter channel.
Yeah, it'll be a Spaces, I think. So
Yep.
no, really looking forward to that. Token Bryce is a very, very sharp guy. And
DeFi advisor and myself were already kind of worried. He's like, you got this, right? And I was like, dude, I will hang as best I can. So he's probably, I would say, in my opinion, he's probably one of the leading experts in terms of decentralized protocols and stable coins, and just a guy that's just, I mean, he's about as deep into it as you can get. And so it's always really interesting to just talk with folks that have that level of understanding and sort of knowledge base to pull from. So it should be pretty cool to talk with him for a bit and kind of get his thoughts on things. And then
I don't know if he's going to be chatting about Liquidity and a little bit about he's obviously the name of the game here is FFX and the whole sort of concept that we are looking at. But yeah, I don't know. I've noticed Liquidity V2 shares some features with what ended up in our white paper, and so I'm curious to know if he's going to talk at all about that or not.
I'm definitely going to bring it up. I'm definitely going to bring it up. Don't you worry.
Oh man, it's going to be a hardball interview. Is that the idea?
Well, I don't know if I'll be hardball, but I'll just be like, so what inspiration did you guys get for Liquidity V? Like, well, what kind of protocols?
Well, I mean, or just I'm curious to know what sort of fundamental parts they are thinking to incorporate, because I do believe that their design they've got like they've been talking about some aspects of the design that seem to be sort of quite separate. I mean, it's all very brand new. It sounds like they're not looking at rolling out anytime soon. But definitely some of what they are doing does kind of rhyme with FFX. So I'm curious to know what parts they are focusing on and what they're looking at pulling in.
Yeah, I think that would be quite interesting. So we'll see. We'll hear it from Token Bryce himself tomorrow. And then do we want to talk about some of the good folks that are helping us launch FFX?
Yeah, so we've in the background on FFX, we've been talking to different DAOs, and we've done this in the past. You guys will recall, like we've with Frax and Stake DAO as well. We were when we launched some of our previous, I'm thinking Clever in particular, we made some deals with them in order to support liquidity, and they were a huge part of that launch. And we are doing something similar with FFX, and so we have three today. We have three big launch partners to announce, who are going to be sort of participating in helping us launch FFX, and they're awful big, aren't they? So they're
about as big as you can get.
They are Curve and Convex and Frax. All three are on board and collaborating with us in order to help us get FFX launched and off the ground, and that's a real big deal. And I think we're gonna have a lot more to share with the community about that, about how those protocols are involved, and what they're doing in the way of supporting FFX, and how we're supporting them in return, and But yeah, we've been working very closely with these folks. You know, Aladdin's been in the ecosystem for in DeFi terms for a very long time now, and we have some pretty deep roots now. And so, you know, one of the great privileges of that is the ability to, you know, to talk to these folks and to bring them on board and to have just the huge sort of like star power and brain power of these organizations helping us out.
Yeah, I think just getting the you know the endorsement from these folks, the thumbs up that like, you know, hey, you know, F of X is something that you know we're interested in, and you
Well,
know
and
we
it's not just
want
a
to
tweet
support.
in this case, right? Like
Yeah,
we're talking about, you know, these are, you know, it's one thing to say, yeah, that's a nice idea, but it's another thing to become like involved
oh
and
for
to,
sure.
you know, to look to get a hold of some of the protocol tokens for your own treasury, for your own protocol. Like that's an endorsement that you really can't get any way other than the honest way.
Yeah, exactly. So we're pretty excited about that, and we'll be. I think we've got some tweets lined up
Yeah,
that'll
we're gonna
get the
let
word
everybody
out.
know, and then we're gonna talk a little bit more about what the shape of those partnerships in the near future, and you know, hopefully use that to drum up some attention and to have lots of eyeballs on us next week for the token sale and also, but mainly for the mainnet launch.
Yep, gonna be exciting.
Can't wait.
Yep.
All right, I think that actually is that it? Is it's 11:03? We've only gone 3 minutes over.
That's pretty good.
Very little time for nonsense today, though. That's kind of disappointing. I think we should, maybe we need to just add like just a baloney break in the middle of the next agenda so that
Just
I can,
have some
because
good keyboard talk. Just
yeah,
some
I
good,
was about to start gloating that based on some recent DMs I got from K-Mets that Linero and I have convinced him to buy the keyboard we were recommending for him. So you know, I guess more about that next week, folks.
yeah, that'll be that we might just have one item on the community call next week. It'll just be that, and just Kruger.
Yeah,
We'll just turn him loose. We'll just be like,
we got him.
let her rip, buddy.
We got him.
We'll
We got him.
we'll mention the launch at the very end, but you know,
Yeah,
you just
exactly. It'll be a footnote.
okie doke, gang. Well, I think that about wraps it up. So appreciate everybody hanging in there. Let's see. All right. Well, we appreciate you, and like we said, we'll be getting word out about the IDO and the launch on mainnet. But you know, keep your eyes
It's gonna be,
peeled, folks.
keep your eyes peeled and be ready. Next week's a big week. If you want to participate, you should get your ducks in a row in time for that.
Yep, absolutely. All right.
Okay, everybody.
See you around.
Thanks all.
Thanks, guys. Speak soon.
Thank you.